All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday, the 13th of September. My name is Brian Anderson, here with Fathering Together. And normally, as many of you know, I've got my gorgeous little kids joining me. I'm replacing them with a gorgeous man, Joe. We'll get into Joe in just a minute. But my daughters send their regards. They had a long weekend, so they are already in bed. But hope you're all doing well. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. And I know there's a lot of stress and a lot of things going on in the world, but I really appreciate those of you who are tuning in tonight. I appreciate all of you who are staying active and being in solidarity with our organization, Fathering Together, as we navigate these times and talk about ways that we can all work to improve them. And so I say that to kind of preface that tonight is going to be not so much a reflection, but more of a update on things to come in Fathering Together, both on our main page here and in our Facebook communities and sort of beyond. We've talked a few times about Facebook, the Facebook Accelerator that we're a part of, and we have just a lot of great ideas coming up from that group of other admins that we're working with, but also from our community. In August, we did a survey, got about 150 responses from dads in our groups, and they were amazing responses. A lot of great ideas, a lot of helpful feedback on how we can improve and grow as a community. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to do based on that feedback. And part of the reason Joe is with me tonight is to talk about one of our big first steps that we'll be doing. Just to share a little bit about Joe, I've known him, gosh, 10, 12 years now. We met at a kind of an anti-violence workshop, a gender development engagement type conference. And I kind of got introduced to the world of this kind of anti-violence and really healthy gender expressions through this conference and through Joe, who at the time was working at an organization called Men Can Stop Rape. He's since done a host of other things, including being a paramedic, excuse me, an EMT, firefighter, archaeologist, which I've not heard about before, but excited to learn more at some time. But also most recently as the founder of an organization called Men Challenging that really works to change narratives around sexual violence and gender norms that we have in our society. And so I'm really excited to bring Joe on for this Sunday reflection because one of the first goals that we're going to be launching October 1st is a new subgroup that we're calling Dads for Gender Equity by Fathering Together, which was a strong response that we got from a number of you in the survey about how can we as fathers be advocates for our kids. And so I want to welcome Joe to talk a little bit about what we plan to do. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, no problem. And not fair. I didn't know that I was stepping in as in place of your daughters. That's not
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
That's
Sorry to
setting
throw
a high bar
that
there.
gauntlet. I know.
High bar, dude. Not
I
cool.
know.
No, I'm thrilled to be here. It's good to be back in touch with you, Brian, and just thrilled with just the huge gathering of men that seem to be really excited about and getting a lot from and giving a lot to Fathering Together and Dads with Daughters. That's exciting stuff to see as someone who's spent 20 plus years helping communities, towns, schools, military, lots of different types of contexts, talk to men and boys about issues of gender and gender violence and about women and daughters and all these types of things. Just does my heart good, man. That's exciting as heck. So anything we can do to support it, I'm thrilled about.
Awesome.
And I think so. Just very quickly, Men Challenging is basically it's a passion project of mine for a long time. I just saw a bit of a need to help guys out there who don't have any idea what this whole gender thing is and are struggling with it or excited about what's going on and want to learn more, want to learn more about what's going on in the world, learn a bit more about what's going on themselves, their
Yep.
family,
Yep.
and men around them, and then also to step up and take action. Men challenging, ing, because it's all about taking action and doing something. So there's a lot of ways to get involved, and the way that you were speaking to that I'm really excited about with you all is putting together some resources, just kind of like a general introduction to the conversations that usually take place around these issues. Questions like, what the heck does it mean to be a man? What's the good, bad, and ugly of that? How is it the same for everybody, and how is it different for everybody? And where did we learn what it means? And which of those things that we've learned do we want to hold on to and are serving us well and those around us well, and what's the stuff we want to chuck and just drop kick away as far away from us as possible. And then, yeah, how does that then connect to a bigger picture of creating a world that's then safe and as respectful as possible to women, to girls, to boys, to men, to everybody, to ourselves as possible. And so concretely, what we're going to be doing is kind of similar to, I think, Brian, the Dove
Yeah.
work with the body image work, the positive self-image work.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, just for those of you who are not familiar with it, if you've joined the group since May, back in May, we worked with Dove, the big corporation Dove, around their self-esteem and positive body image work that they do with young girls, and really diving into interviews and engagements with our members, but also having the learning units that are still available for people to walk through, to kind of pick up some strategies and tips to connect with your kids on these issues, on those issues, and we'll be doing a similar thing in the subgroup uh, here in a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so. It's going to be, a bit of information, a bit of me talking, a bit of other people talking. It'll be some resources, some questions to think about, as much discussion and interaction as possible. And we're going to have some of those discussions about what it means to be a man, but then we're going to dive down more specifically to fathers and fatherhood. In my experience, just as a human being and a dude and an American, etc., fathers have this unique potential to have a really good sense of what it's like, especially fathers with daughters, to be clear, dads with daughters, a really good potential to know what it's like to be a woman or a girl, or as close as someone who's not a woman or girl can understand that. And so, and again, the good, the bad, and the ugly within that too. And so there's a lot that fathers have done and are doing and will continue to do to help create safer spaces, to help create support, resources, respect, like I said, and safety for your daughter, right? But we don't want to stop there. We want it to be, right, a better world for my daughter, but then also for your daughter too, right? Yep. We want to create a world and we want to maybe create a world, a better world for all daughters, right?
Exactly.
But we don't actually want to stop with daughters, right? We want to create a better place, a safer place, a more respectful, less violent place for all women, right? Because it's not just about being a daughter. It's also about being a human being. And we want to make that jump. And so that's kind of the big picture goal of what we're trying to do. And we are freaking thrilled to see what you're thinking, where you're at, what we can do to help support it, and then take some action about some of this stuff. I got goosebumps.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled. Chris is thrilled as we were kind of building the plan for this fall with this accelerator. There's, before I get into all the other stuff, I think to double down on these units are not kind of just like read an action plan and then you're done, or read here's the 5 things then you're done, right? Like all of us, I mean, we're a global community of dads, and every culture comes with a different set of expectations, a different set of norms around what gender means or doesn't. And I think the excitement that I also have for this is how I can engage with someone from Canada, from someone from sub-Saharan Africa, in Australia, and really dive into some of this messy stuff, because I think regardless of where we live, we all experience violence. We all see violence in our communities. But I know when I first held my daughters, everything changed, right? And on so many levels. And as I peeled back those levels through my lack of sleep and the haze of early fatherhood, I started realizing like, I'm not just a dad for my daughter. Like you're saying, I'm dad for other people, but I'm not, like, part of being a dad is being an educator, it's being an advocate, it's being that champion when your kids are totally defenseless in the world. But then also empowering them and preparing them to be the champion for themselves once they're ready for it, right? And that's a line that we all need to cross depending on our kids of that age. But by the time they're adults, they need to know, a lot. And if we're not there doing it, somebody else is going to fill their heads for us. And I shiver to think what some of those things may be. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got just stories we can share, I'm sure, all of us.
Right.
And I think it's an important point too, because a word that gets thrown around a lot in the work that I do is accountability. What does that mean? What does it look like? And I think a very obvious example of it out there is the Me Too movement, right? The hashtag Me Too movement, with
Mhm.
women and girls from all over the world sharing solidarity and stories of being victims and survivors of specifically sexual violence, but in different forms. But the question of accountability for me is a lot deeper than that, and that's in the work that I do and what a lot of people do. So, exploring some of this stuff in the units or through just conversations and some of the things that we'll be doing in the group, and bigger stuff down the road, I hope, and I'm excited about. It's not necessarily always going to be easy, because some of it is, asking ourselves, asking us to and challenging us to take a critical look at who we are, really what's at the core of who we are. And that can be on its own, that can be scary sometimes. But then if we start to talk about the things that we believe, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a father, and then look at its connections to gender inequity and to gender violence even, yeah, sometimes we got to check ourselves and our behavior, past, present, and future, our language, our attitudes, etc. So it's great to come in and take a stand and to do something and join an action or an event or this or that, the other, for your daughter, for everybody. But it also is about looking inward. And that's a lifelong commitment journey thing. Not to scare anyone off before we even have the subgroup up, but
Right.
it's intense. And
Yeah.
usually, almost always, leads to a lot of positive things, but it can also shake things up, and it can also be intense. And there's a lot of stuff you can go through depending on how deeply you engage, and depending on what stuff you've gotten there that maybe you haven't looked at in a while, and
Mhm.
or ever critically, and seeing all the wonderful stuff that we all bring to this thing called human life, but also, and fatherhood specifically, but also some of the stuff that maybe isn't serving us well and those around us well,
Yeah.
and that it would be better to examine and see where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excited.
No, I'm really excited too. And I think, I mean, it sounds like a broken record, but again, the diversity of experiences that we're all bringing with us,
Yeah.
not just as fathers, but also sons, right? Like all of
Yeah.
us had
Yeah.
dads, whether they were active in our lives or not,
Right.
that helped shape, like you were saying, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a father. And I know for my father, a lot of my memories of him were being very active, being very present. And in high school, I talked with him about it. And part of why he was so engaged in my life was because my grandfather was not engaged as a father. He was very distant. He worked a lot. He was very, just absent. Um, and I don't think I was typical in the early 80s to have such an engaged dad. I'm very
Right.
blessed to have had him, and still do. He's still around. Sorry. But
You're
but
forgiven.
he's not necessarily he doesn't treat me as a dad anymore. Like I'm like, we're now kind of like peers in this fatherhood journey or whatever. But so many men in our community, so many fathers have shared vulnerable posts in our main pages, in our main
Mhm.
groups, that they're wrestling with this stuff. And
Yeah.
and again, for those that are listening, this is our attempt to help build a community of support directly addressing this need and this issue, because so many posts in the past have been around that. And it's not going to be easy every day, and there's going to be some hard conversations and some hard reflection that we all have to do. But um, you know I'm starting to exercise again, trying to get healthy again. And one of the first things that, as I was kind of reflecting on it and reading up, like, muscle gets torn before it heals and gets stronger, right? And in a way, our spirit, our mental state is, in a way, kind of like that muscle, where we have to kind of break it a little bit to help it heal and reform and
Can't make an
and
omelet.
and make an omelet. Yeah, I gotta break eggs, make
Um,
omelet. But
just because I like food more than I do
that's
exercising, I
fine. That's
wanted to
fine.
slip that metaphor in. But
Good, good.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because my thought, and this, the subgroup, we've done a lot of work on this and a lot of planning and thinking, coming out, as Brian said, from what you all have shared and from what we've seen in the posts and more, and then my experience and some other people we have, experts in this question, in this area, that we have as well. It's, for me specifically as Joe and Men Challenging and the work we do, the focus really is on gender equity and specifically gender violence. How do we get rid of the epidemic levels of violence against women and girls and men and boys and gay folks and trans folks and everybody, but especially men and women and girls, be that domestic violence, sexual violence, dating violence, stalking, street harassment, sexual harassment, etc. That's very much my passion personally and professionally, what I do, what Men Challenging's kind of goal is. But um, we're still looking at the subgroup to be a bit broader than that in terms of the support and resource it can be.
Right.
Um, that doesn't have to be y'all, we're not trying to recruit everybody to be, gender justice social warriors. Although maybe that's another subgroup, but that's
Yeah.
another story.
Whole
But
other conversation.
but
Yeah.
hopefully it is a place where these questions, these discussions can happen. And the more these I honestly believe, and I've seen it over the last 20 plus years, and I've experienced it myself as well. The more you have these conversations, it tends to have net positive effects for everybody around you.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
just you, but your daughter, your just everybody in your life.
Yeah.
Most everybody. Sometimes you realize you got friends in your life you got to maybe, you know, say goodbye
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
But we'll get there in unit 7 or 15 or 1 or
Right. Right.
but yeah,
Good. Good.
excited.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you, Joe. We could talk for hours, but we'll
Yeah.
we'll put a pause here and we'll save the rest for the group.
Sure.
And so we'll be launching October 1st, so a couple weeks away. We're going to be working on some of that curriculum in the background. But if you have an interest in taking a lead in some of these conversations, or if this has sparked something inside of you that like this is my passion, I want to get involved, please shoot me a direct message on Facebook. I'm in the group, pretty active as well, so happy to converse with you, set up a time to talk in more depth about how you see yourself contributing. Because again, it's going to take all of us to work together towards this. But ahead of that, we'll be doing some announcements and things like that. So stay tuned for October 1st. And just to share a couple more things before we sign off. This is step 1, is this gender equity group. But in November, we're going to be launching a similar focus group on racial equity and helping heal some of the racial tensions and divides that have been springing up all over, and really helping all of us address kind of what does racism mean, but ultimately I think with both of these groups there's a level of empathy building, and how do we see ourselves in those that aren't like us or don't look like us or don't behave like us, doesn't matter, but how are we finding common ground, finding common values and interests in those that have diverse backgrounds from our own. So again, October 1 we've got the gender equity, in November we've got the racial equity. We're going to be doing a lot of work with our Dads in Recovery and our legal custody subgroups, with some panels, both with active members and bringing in some experts. If you were around and saw our panel back on August 28th, Sean Myers stepping up and helping in cultivating some more panels around how do dads live through recovery and be a dad. Really powerful stuff. These are true warriors in and of themselves that are making something out of really some hard deals that they had to handle in their past. So excited to bring those into action and supporting all of this. And we'll be announcing a lot more of this throughout the week ahead, are some weekly community discussions. And we'll be using these on Zoom, inviting all of you into different conversations, whether that's educational systems, outdoor adventures, maybe you're a coach and you want to meet other dads who coach their kids, or maybe there's some spiritual stuff you want to work out. Doesn't matter. We've got about 10 of them that we're going to be launching in October as well, that we're calling Dad Chats. And we're really thrilled to have members stepping up to facilitate these as well. So again, lots of stuff coming down the pike. We're really excited. We'll be posting a bunch in the weeks ahead to help get you all as informed as possible. I know we've got a lot going on, and our goal at Fathering Together is to create a community that provides resources and support. And now more than ever, dads need support, because we need to really, in some ways, reimagine what fatherhood is in these stressful times, as most of us are living at home, working from home, not living, obviously we live at home, but work from home, teach from home, all that good stuff. So I'm excited to have you all as a part of this community. I'm excited for Joe and other experts to be helping us craft the educational components. And without that community work, none of this would get done. So I want to end on a note of thanks. And for those of you that want to contribute in some sort of financial way, if you can't contribute in an educational way, we'll take those donations as well to help us keep this ball rolling and keep the community strong and effective. So have a good rest of your evening. Have a wonderful kickoff to the week. Hopefully the weather is great. Hopefully you stay safe from pandemics, from fires, from whatever is going on in your neck of the woods. And we'll see you around the group. Peace. Have a good night.